We're pulling up the numbers from week 6, and we're looking at the air yards from some of these wide receivers who really got those deep targets to see whether or not some of these wide receivers are buy lows, trade candidates, guys to pick up off waivers, guys that drop, guys that we want to gamble with in our lineups from time to time. Overall, we're just looking at the numbers and see what's going on with some of the top air yard candidates from week 6 and projecting out the week 7. So we're looking at waivers, trades, pickups, buy lows, everything in this video with these prospects. But what you need to do, click that subscribe button right now. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse. Whatever you need to do to get the job done. Stop missing out on these videos on these deeper prospects as we cover the waiver wire day in and day out, helping you set those lineups, helping you get those trades done, and everything else. Let's look into these numbers. Let's look at these wide receivers. The first one we're looking at here is Marquise Brown. Led the league with 183 air yards, 11 targets, and almost a 30% target share. And he was very productive in a workload standpoint, but did not come out the fantasy points as he just scored 7.4 fantasy points in this game. The weeks prior, he scored 16, 16, 17, and 17. So he's having a good season. He's getting a lot of volume, double-digit targets in each of his last 3 games. A game like this, where the output did not go his way, but the workload did, might create him as a buy low candidate. He's also on the Cardinals. A lot of people don't trust this team. A lot of people think these players are going to be up and down. He's pretty much the main get on this offense right now. This was a plus matchup. Just the ball didn't go his way. The dominoes didn't fall in the right direction. The air yards was there. The targets was there. Everything was there to hit. It just did not work out. Marquise Brown, though, is seeing elite workload right now, and we should expect that. The veteran incumbent, the deep ball specialist, who's very nuanced, is a guy that specializes in this department with 4 catches, 34 yards, 11 targets, leading the team in targets, almost up there in yards. This was a low output of passing in this game here. So don't expect this to be like this every week. Expect him to continue to get volume. I don't expect people to be trading him away, but maybe in your league, his manager is not really thinking things through, and he just got 183 air yards, and he didn't see that, and maybe you can sneak him away on the cheap. Now we're looking at Brandon Ayuk. I don't see anybody giving him away in trades. I just don't see that happening. He's been very productive week in and week out. He's pretty stable. 10 targets and a 41% target share. I don't see you getting any trades done. But for the value here, we do need to give him more value. We do need to pump him up here. He had 158 air yards in this game, a low volume, low scoring game. Still got it done. 4 catches, 76 yards. The workload's there. He's consistent. We need to give him more props. He was falling too low in drafts. He was a good buy in drafts. I don't think you can buy low on him. I think you have to buy high if you're going to get him. But I do see him as a consistent asset, especially for the rest of the season. That means something in this league. That really does. You're seeing a guy pushing for a 30% target share week in and week out, 41% last week, getting targets, getting air yards, looking good. He took a step up this season. He's going to be expensive, but sometimes you got to buy high on a player to get it right. And he's a player right now that you may want to buy high on because he's consistent, hasn't had a game under 10 fantasy points. He's getting volume, he's getting workload. In shitty matchups like this, he's still bringing you production. Now we're looking at Chris Olave. He only has 1 touchdown on the season, 157 air yards, and it's like this every single week. He's pushing about 125 air yards a game. 10 targets in this matchup, a 21% target share. The target share is actually kind of light for him. He's pushing usually around 25% between game to game, but still 7 catches, 96 yards, 16 fantasy points. He had a couple light weeks in week 4 and week 5. That could have been a buying opportunity. I don't see people giving up Chris Olave for anything. He's a deep threat. The thing about him, though, there's going to be some splash weeks coming. We only have 1 touchdown on the season. We're going to see some more touchdowns. You do not see double-digit targets a game, 30 to 40% share of the air yards, and not see touchdowns. We're going to see an explosion here in the back half of the season as long as he finishes the year healthy. Maybe you want to buy high on that. Maybe you do. Maybe you want to wait for those splash performances and sell high and get multiple pieces because you need to try and win your league and you need more pieces on your team. But bigger games are coming for Chris Olave. Strategize for that. Now we're looking at Devonta Smith, 154 air yards, 11 targets, 25% target share, 14.4 ADOT. Has not been the greatest season, as a lot of people have been saying that. But he's been off and on with production. Scored 9.4 fantasy points. This was an ugly matchup. He was up there in targets, just above DeAndre Swift. But still, the volume's there. The production is off and on. It's okay when you look at it, when you backtrack on it. Maybe you can catch him on the cheap in a trade, because I am seeing people on social media be a little bit sour on him, be a little bit low on him. I think where he was drafted at, they were expecting more. That game where he scored 1.6 fantasy points, that probably sticks in their head. It probably is going to be off and on a lot of weeks, because you got A.J. Brown being dominant. You got DeAndre Swift seeing targets. You got Dallas Goedert, a tight end, getting targets. So not every game's going to hit. Not every game's going to be a splash. But there's air yards in this offense. There's targets in this offense. There's opportunity in this offense. Some people are down on him. Maybe you want to test and kick the tires. Now we're looking at Trey Palmer, a guy to look up off the waiver wire, maybe down the line later in the season. Mike Evans, hamstring injury, played through it, got some opportunity as he caught 4 balls for 49 yards. But Trey Palmer, deep threat, solid ball skills, productive in college last year at Nebraska. 154 air yards in this game against the Detroit Lions. Another nasty one, only 26 points scored, but both teams were slinging the rock because they couldn't run the ball. Neither one of them. 11 targets to Trey Palmer and almost a 20% target share and a 22 ADOT. That's huge. That lets us know he's getting the deep targets. Those deep targets means we could be getting that Will Fuller effect that we talk about. Boom, bust weeks. Those boom games win your weeks. Those bust weeks give you goose eggs. But still, that's something you may want to play with in your lineups, especially if he starts seeing more snaps. We're going to talk about that extensively more as we're watching the trends with his workload. Now we're talking about Rashid Shahed. I feel like I've been talking about him a lot lately. 142 air yards in this game, and it was a tighter game as well. We had a lot of tight contests this week. 6 targets, 13% target share, but an 8 out of 23, almost 24. Deep ball city for Shahed, and that means if you want to be a gambler, put him in your lineup, close your eyes, see what happens. Or if you're hurting and you want to gamble on a deep threat, this is one guy you can do it with. 142 air yards in this game. First double-digit scoring game since week 2 when he scored 10.3 fantasy points against Carolina. He does have upside. He's tapped into it a couple times. So when he hits that upside, it's a decent week. It's a decent performance. His downside, 4, 6 fantasy points. Somewhere around there. That's what you're going to expect on the consistent. But still, when he hits that upside, that's a player that can get you out of a rough matchup that you have because you're hurt, because you got bye weeks. Chase those air yards if you can, if you're hurting, because that could be a winner for you for the week if it hits. If not, then you know what? You're probably starting a jabroni anyways. Now we're looking at Drake London, 132 air yards, 12 targets, a 27.3% target share, which was elite. And you know what? He's having a sneaky season. A lot of people got scared off on week 1 when he scored 0 fantasy points, but since then, 18, 5, 11, 14, and 21. So he has been productive, and he's seeing volume. He's a big-time wide receiver, just in a bad offense for him. The ball doesn't flow his way. If he had a tremendous quarterback, he'd be doing tremendous things. But still, we're getting the workload. We're getting deep targets. Don't cut bait on him. This is not a random scenario that he scored 21 fantasy points. He's getting opportunity, and a lot of times that's going to hit. He'll have more splash performances on the year. Now we're looking at Jaylen High, third-round rookie wide receiver. You're not running to the waiver wire to get him, but you're watching the trends. You're watching what happens. 132 air yards in this game against the Bills. Low-scoring game. But the Giants had to sling the rock. Hyatt had 4 targets and a 12.9% target share in this game. He is a deep ball city guy. He is a guy that runs 9 routes, runs wind sprints on the field, and sometimes those deep targets goes his way, and if he reels in a couple of them, he'll have a splash performance. He's a rookie, middle rounder. Other wide receivers in this offense are running routes, getting targets. So it's very muddy waters here for Hyatt. But think about the back end of the season. Think about them just giving him some opportunity. Think about next year. Maybe more of a play for next year. But you have to watch the trend. See if he's getting more workload. See if he's running more deep routes. See if he's getting more opportunities. Because that could be something that hits down the line in the back 9 of the season. Now we're looking at Jameson Williams because we have to look at Jameson Williams. 70 air yards on 3 targets, 7.3% target share. So that's a lot of air yards for just 3 targets. That's something we want out of Jameson Williams, and we got the splash games that we were hoping. 13.3 PPR fantasy points, and that's what you get from Jameson Williams, and that's what I've been talking about all along last year and in the videos this year, that you're going to get low games like the 2 points last week and then 13 points this week, and it's going to be a lot of low, super high, a lot of low, super high. So you're just going to take those gambles, see what happens. But deep ball candidates like this with the Will Fuller effect, when they hit that splash week, it is tremendous. They're going to give you some down weeks. You're just going to have to expect that, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown seeing 15 targets. Sam Laporta seeing 11 targets. They're seeing over half the targets in this offense. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be back. He's going to be seeing a lot of targets, or some of the targets. A big enough piece of the pie to really damper things for a lot of other wide receivers and pass catchers. But Jameson Williams, he gets air yards. He gets opportunities. That's something you need to know. Now we're looking at Alec Pierce, another Jameson Williams-esque wide receiver. Deep ball city with this guy. He likes to run 9 routes. At least that's what the Colts like to do with him. That's what we saw with him at Cincinnati in college. 80 air yards in this contest, although he did hurt his shoulder, so you want to watch the tea leaves with him. But again, long-term play later in the season. Saw 6 targets, 11% target share. We saw him break out in some games last year due to the deep ball. We'll probably see that again somewhere down the line. But again, you're watching him due to the deep targets. You're closing your eyes and hoping the ball comes his way and maybe it brings it in, but that's about it. We just pulled up the data from week 6, looked at the air yards, looked at some of those deep ball candidates, and looked at see who's trending up, who we can buy on the cheap, who we can prospect out later in the season. Maybe there's a waiver wire pickup or two, and then try to help our fantasy teams by looking at the numbers and building those strategies to get our teams over the hump. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next video.